Yo, what's up guys, it's your boy Sami here. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto was trained by dragons for Chunnin exams, part 1, hope you'll enjoy this video. So before we start please subscribe to our channel, and like this video. So let's get into the video. Prologue. The birth of the twin swords. The greatest weapon a man can wield is his own heart, mind, body, and soul. The weapons of today are merely part of the arsenal. In the world of Dajern. In the times of the ancient past, when the world was young, there were dragons, ancient and majestic beasts of power, magic, and will. They soared through the skies, and ruled the lands before them, and conversed with the mortal beings who inhabit the lands. There were two sects of dragons, the holy dragons who valued peace, compassion, wisdom, knowledge, justice, mercy, order, life, creation, and freedom, and the chaos dragons who valued power, corruption, greed, hatred, malice, anger, death, slavery, and destruction. These dragons were constantly fighting one another, the holy dragons hoping to protect all in their charge, while the chaos dragons wanted to conquer, enslave, and consume those the holy dragons protected. The mortal denizens of the world knew this to be the war of the dragon lords, as many dragons on either side sold their lives dearly. They too joined behind these dragons on either side. Some did it for honor, fame, glory, justice, and duty. Others did it for power, knowledge, destruction, and worse. The realms protected by the holy dragons were under the stewardship of their most powerful lord, a powerful dragon named Faldrin. He taught many ancient powers to mortals, being the oldest, and the first of the holy dragons, and their unspoken leader. He too saw mortals under his care to be worthy of protection, and he led his kin into countless battles with their dark brethren, to prevent the destruction of all life. Under his teachings, the mortal humans, and their fellow neighbors the elves, dwarves, gnomes, and other races of the light, made kingdoms of their own lands, and considered the holy dragons as their allies, and respected the power of the holy dragons in both times of peace and in times of war. Though Faldrin and his kin didn't interfere with the affairs of their wards, to allow them to make their own civilizations grow, coming to aid them when the need was great. The realms under the watch of the Chaos Dragons were under the control of their most powerful leader Korvax. Like Faldrin, he taught many things to the mortals in his realms, being the oldest and first of the Chaos Dragons, and their unquestioned master. However, this was where things between the two dragon sides changed, for in the realms of the Chaos Dragons, the beings who live there are forever food, slaves, and worshippers of the Chaos Dragons. Korvax saw mortals as nothing more than pawns, food, and puppets, and he and his kin fed their power and malice into their subjects without care, and twisted the hearts of the beings of their lands, who feared them and worshipped them. Many battles have been fought between the two dragon races and their mortal followers for generations, and it has been a violent and bloody existence. Faldrin decided to call a ceasefire, and spoke to Korvax, and both leaders met in the borderlands. What was spoken between the great dragon lords was unknown, but what was certain was that there would be no true compromise, as both leaders knew that there would be war even if they would all leave, and never interfere with the affairs of the beings under their respective charge. Thus the dragon lords each spoke to their kin, and decided to create weapons that could be used to determine the outcome of each battle. Faldrin gathered his kin, and with all of their power, one of his own metallic claws, and one of his metal scales, they created a sword of great power. The sword was unlike anything any mortal smith could forge, and was made by the holy dragons to be unmatched by mortal means. Save by their own power, and that of their dark brethren into this sword, they pour portions of their mystic powers, their blood, their beliefs, and more. The sword was forged for nearly 3 to 4 years, and with Faldrin's last blessing the weapon was complete. Korvax gathered his own kin, and with all of their power, one of his own metallic fangs, and one of his scales, they too created a sword of great power, and it too was unlike anything that any mortal smith could forge, and was made by the Chaos Dragons to be unequaled by mortal means. Save by their own power, and that of their holy kin into this sword, they pour portions of their own mystic powers, their blood, their beliefs, and more. It took 4 years for the weapon to be completed, and it was so with Korvax's blessing. Once the weapons were finished, the dragons left the weapons in their most sacred place, and thus they moved aside, and allowed their respective mortal followers to seek the weapons out of their own free will. The two swords were wondrous to behold by anyone, and they were soon sought after by many who sought the power of the dragons. But the swords were no mere weapons, they were great reservoirs of magic and power, and were alive. These two swords chose their wielders, and to prove it those deemed worthy by the swords, each bore a mark of the holy and chaos dragons, and the sword would obey only its chosen wielder and master. Those who were able to find the swords, but were not chosen, were unable to wield it in many ways. Those who attempted to wield the holy dragon sword found it to be nearly impossible to lift, as if they were trying to lift a mountain. And those of dark natures and hearts who attempted to wield or touch the holy dragon sword were burned by the mystical wards and enchantments that both chose the wielder and protected the sword from harm. The same could be said for the Chaos Dragon sword, as it too prevented those who did not choose to wield it to even lift off the ground. Those who were of good natures and hearts suffered paralyzing pain and fear once they were hit by the wards and enchantments that guarded the sword. After their forging, the swords saw battle in the hands of various warriors from the two realms, and these battles were climactic in scale to the eyes of mortals, and these were known as the Dragon Champion Wars, and each wielder of either sword was graced with the title of Dragon Champion. In time the swords themselves gained their own names, and while the draconian names for the swords were only spoken by the dragons who made them, the mortals of each realm made names that would long be remembered. The Holy Dragon Sword was known as Holy Talon, and the Chaos Dragon Sword was known as Death Fang. The swords also took in the essences of those who wielded them, learning from their previous wielders, and bestowing the same abilities to those who they chose to wield them later on in life. And it was said that those dragon champions were granted immortality by the swords in a way that they were able to live for many years after the forging of both blades. In one final battle, both Holy Talon and Death Fang were wielded by two powerful mages who fought in the land known as the Dragon's Basin. In the final moments of the 5 days battle of swords and magic, the mages slew one another in a maelstrom of mystical energy that would have been immense. And all magic would have been disrupted. However, in a blinding flash of light the battle ended, and both mages were seen dead on the ground, and the swords gone. There was panic in both realms, and many petitioned the dragons to locate the wondrous weapons, but the dragons refused, and stated that the time of the Holy Talon and the Death Fang in this world had passed. The maelstrom had somehow sent the swords far beyond even their reach, and, as such, only a great feat of power could bring the living swords back. The Dragon Lords knew this, and they decided to watch and wait to see through their magic where the swords had indeed landed. It was in a realm too far away for them to open a gateway for the swords' return, but the higher gods deemed that while the swords were no longer there, they would have roles to play in wherever they landed. And soon, new dragon champions will arise, and the battle will once more be fought between the Holy Talon and the Death Fang, and soon the swords and their wielders will decide the fate of their world in ways that none, not even them, can predict. In Wave Country, Naruto rushed as fast as he could manage in order to reach Inari and Tsunami before the bandits Gato hired to kidnap a hostage. And he knew just who they had in mind. The blonde moved as fast as he could manage as he closed the distance between him and Inari's home. He knew that his team were currently at the bridge that Tazuna was building, and he knew that the ninja known as Zabuza was in the area. He had to finish this quickly before things got even more hectic. Darn it. I hope I make it in time. As he cleared the forest, he then spotted two samurai holding Tsunami hostage, and Inari was shouting at them to release his mother. Naruto was surprised by this. He had fought with Inari before, when the topic of heroes came up a long time ago while there in the village. Inari thought heroes were fools, and that really pissed him off that the kid was looking at his adopted father that way. But it seemed that the young boy had gathered the courage to stand and fight, as he was doing his level best to tell the two samurai to release his mother, and he was charging right for them. Naruto knew that he only had one chance to get this right, as the two men began to attack, as he rushed in. Inari. Tsunami screamed out, as she tried to stop the two rogue samurai from killing her son, but she was stopped with a blow from doing anything, and she was now unconscious. Inari was feeling great fear and sorrow, but held on, as he charged at the men. The brothers were eager to end the brat's life, but to their shock, they found that they only succeeded in cutting a log into 3 pieces. What the heck? A replacement. The two then turned, as they spotted Naruto, who had been able to rescue Tsunami, and Inari in them, as the blonde ninja spoke in his usual tone. I made it, sorry about the delay, but heroes always seem to show up late. Inari looked up, and saw to his surprise Naruto, who had been able to use a replacement to take Inari's place while he, and 3 other clones that he had made, were able to sneak into the area, and free Tsunami and Inari at the last minute. Who the heck are you? The name's Naruto Uzumaki of Konoha to you one eye. And I'm going to deal with you right now for trying to kidnap a kind lady like Tsunami, and trying to kill her son. Naruto. It's you. Naruto spared a glance at Inari, and smiled, as the kid stood in awe at what he had been able to do at the last minute. You did great, Inari. When you charged those two, they forgot about your mother, and that allowed me to get out of the way, and use a replacement to save both her and you. I owe you big for that. Inari looked at his mother, and found her to be alive and safe, and he felt like crying, but then realized that since Naruto was not with the others, he must have known about the samurai who were coming to kidnap his mother. But how did he know that, and make it here? But how did you know these two were coming to kidnap my mother? Naruto recalled what he had seen while in the forest a while back, and which told him that danger was heading Inari's way. I found a really badly wounded boar in the forest a while back, and the area around it was really cut up, and those cuts could only be done with a sword, and the path where all the cutting was done was heading straight for your house. That was really smart of you, Naruto. Blah, blah. Inari turned, and both he and Naruto then faced the two mercenary samurai who were getting even more annoyed, as they reached for their swords once more. It's one of those ninja brats Tazuna hired. Let's deal with him. Inari gasped, as the two charged at them, as they were still looking. They're coming. Naruto calmly focused, and took out a pair of shuriken from his pouch, and fired them at the two samurai. Both men then took out their swords, and blocked the attacks, and one of them merely taunted Naruto. You'll have to do something else than that, brat. Naruto merely grinned, making them more angry, as he replied. I already have. Before the samurai could do anything, the two of the clones that Naruto had made before had been able to get the drop on the two samurai, and with powerful kicks to the back of their heads, the two samurai were knocked out like lights. The clones faded, and Inari was stunned at the whole thing, and looked at Naruto with white eyes filled with admiration. That was so cool. Just like a real ninja. You twerk. I keep telling you all the time. I am a real ninja, you know. The two shared a great deal of laughs, and afterwards, the two tied up the still unconscious samurai brothers with several coils of rope, and, as they took the time to calm down after the battle, Naruto had this weird feeling that someone was calling him. Naruto then spoke to Inari. I guess I should apologize about what I said yesterday. Huh? Calling you a coward was pretty low and mean, but now I can say this with pride and honesty, Inari. He placed his hand on Inari's head, and replied with his usual smile. You were really brave today. I have no doubt your stepfather and your mother would be really proud of you. Inari felt overwhelmed and once more began to cry, and he was not happy with that, as he thought Naruto was going to make fun of him and call him a baby, like those bullies had done in the past. But Naruto was not that kind of person, and assured him that it was alright. Naruto then left him in charge, as he ran back to help his fellow team members in their battle at the bridge. On the bridge, things were not looking good, as Sasuke found himself under heavy attack by Haku, who had somehow conjured up another that involved ice and water. The fake hunter Nin created mirrors of ice that covered Sasuke, and when he tried to break one they didn't break in the least, and before he knew what was happening, Haku unleashed a massive barrage of senbon that cut into him, and wounded him severely. He had the upper hand at first until Haku pulled out this snoo, and he had no way to escape, and was wounded considerably. Kakashi tried to step in, but found himself blocked by Zabuza, and Sakura tried to get involved by firing a kunai at Haku, but the apparently skilled ninja caught the weapon, and was about ready to attack, but he was suddenly attacked by a shuriken, and was knocked out of the mirror he was using. The others looked, as a large pillar of smoke appeared, and only two people knew who that was. Sasuke groaned, as he knew of only one guy who did such stunts. Darna quit showing off. Haku spoke once more, as he now had a gash on his mask, due to the shuriken hitting his face. The number one hyperactive knuckle-headed ninja is here, I see. And sure enough, Naruto appeared and was ready for a fight as the smoke cleared. He spoke proudly and got ready with his usual grin. Naruto Uzumaki is here. Believe it. As he got ready to jump into the fray, he took out a kunai and made a direct strike to Haku. He realized that since this guy was the one who controlled the mirror, he was then one that had to be taken out. That much he knew, but as Naruto closed in, Haku quickly fired several senbon at him. He was able to evade some of them, but got hit hard on the leg, and Zabuza took advantage of that, and Kakashi was stunned, as Naruto was injured. The blonde ninja recovered, but quickly gulped once more, as Zabuza came at him with his head-cleaving sword at the ready. Naruto, look out. Now you die, brat. Naruto blocked with his kunai, but the weapon was not enough, as the head-cleaving sword had been well made, and weapons such, as the kunai, were not the best choices to block a weapon of its power and size, as the kunai held on for a moment before being cut. And the weapon wounded Naruto right on the chest, cutting him deeply. Naruto staggered back, as the blood flowed from his wounds. Haku hesitated, and was not happy. He wanted to fight Naruto head-on, but Zabuza was in a hurry, and he couldn't go against the only man to give him purpose. Zabuza smirked a bit, and replied, You've run out of road in life, but see you at the end. With that, Zabuza kicked Naruto in the stomach, and sent him into the waters below with a splash, and he turned, and faced Kakashi, who gave out a very icy glare. How dare you? You want to avenge that brat, Kakashi? Then come, and get me, and watch, as Haku takes out the other one. Sakura gasped at the sight of Naruto falling into the water with the wound. She might not like him, but he was her team after all, and now he must be dead. She forced herself to calm down, and focus on defending Tazuna. Though she swore that she would pray for her teammate, once she had a chance. Unknown to them all. As Naruto fell deeper into the water, knocked back into the ocean from Zabuza's strike, he felt the cold waters, and he felt his life beginning to weaken, and he continued to fall into the water. Am I dying? Naruto opened his eyes, and found himself in deep water, and there were fishes swimming, and for a moment a vision hit his mind, the image of a strange sword that seemed to be of pure evil, as if it was purely made from evil. He then saw himself, but different whisker marks were there, but he seemed older, more seasoned, and holding his sword, wearing strange clothes with the symbol of some beast with wings on the clothes, and a strange white tattoo on his arm. He looked about, as much as he could manage, and then he saw something. As his wounds were still bleeding from the strike, he managed to barely deflect. He wasn't sure, but it appeared to be some sort of weapon in a sheath like a sword, and it was buried in a large boulder underneath the waters. But it was different, though he couldn't see it for real. His vision began to fade, but the number one hyperactive knuckle-headed ninja of Konoha was not about to die here and now. No, I've made it this far. I will become Hokage. I refuse to die. Naruto tried to move, as the sword was now within reach, and for a second, he touched it. I won't give up my dream. I want to live. Naruto suddenly felt a sensation flooding his body, but it was not a deadly sensation, but warm, calming, soothing, and empowering, unlike anything he had ever felt before in his entire life. It didn't even compare to the chakra that he summoned on a few occasions. But something older, more unique. It was then that he heard a voice in the darkness. What do you live for? Naruto was unsure of what the voice wanted for him to say. But no matter what, he was not going to back down, and he replied. I live to accomplish my dream. Dream? What is your dream to be, boy? I dream of being Hokage someday, so I will be recognized by the people in my village. And my name is Naruto Uzumaki, not a boy. Why do you wish to be Hokage, Naruto Uzumaki? So I can finally prove to the villagers that I'm not a demon. That I can be the greatest ninja the village ever had. Is that all you want? Do you not have others to care for and protect? Naruto then recalled Iruka, the only man who treated him with kindness in the academy, the third Hokage, who despite him butting heads with, was the closest thing to a grandfather he had, his friend Konohamaru. He recalled Tsuchi and Aim, the two who worked in the ramen stand that he frequented. He thought of his teammates, Sakura, his sensei Kakashi, and even if he wouldn't want to admit it, Sasuke. He would not give up on Sakura despite her actions towards him. He wanted to prove to Kakashi that he could be as good or even better than Sasuke. And he wanted to prove to Sasuke that he could be stronger than him. The voice was silent, and Naruto wondered if it decided to leave him alone, but it came back in the same tone as before, but he spotted a deep glow glint before him. You do have those you wish to protect. Will you defend them with all that you are? Of course I will. I am a ninja from Konoha, and they are important to me. Important enough for you to risk your very life. Will you fight with every fiber of your being to defend them, even if you must face death itself? They are worth everything to me, and they are important enough for me to fight no matter what. I will fight with every bit of my skill and soul to defend them. And I will not die until I do that and become Hokage. The blonde ninja then saw the glow become larger and brighter than any light he had seen, and, as soon as the light faded, he gasped, as he saw a sword, unlike any sword he had ever seen before in his days in the academy. It had two edges, and the blade was 3 feet in length, and it had strange markings on the middle, and there were small gems on the middle, as well in regular intervals, and the base was surrounded by 2 strange serpent-like beasts, that then covered the flat of the blade on either side. The handguard was made in a way that the handguard resembled bat-like wings, with 2 sharp prongs moving upward. There appeared to some sort of gem under a metal sheath on the middle of the guard, and the handle was covered in a scale-like pattern, like that of a snake or any reptile. And the handle was good for either a single or double-handed grip. The end of the handle had another one of the serpent heads with its jaws open, and a beautiful gem that seemed to shimmer in different colors of the rainbow. The blade itself was made of a metal that seemed to glow with a silvery white light, mixed with gold tint. The hand grip was also made from pure gold or something that resembled gold. And the handle itself seemed to be made out of another silvery metal inlaid with gold leaf. The weapon was beautiful, and it seemed to call to him, as he reached out, and when his hands gripped the sword handle, the voice once more spoke, as the covered jewel on the middle of the hand grip opened like an eye, and a glowing white stone appeared. You have been deemed worthy of Naruto Uzumaki. I shall be your ally, brother in arms, and protector to the very end of your days. I am the Holy Dragon Sword, known to your race as the Holy Talon, and you are now more than a ninja of Konoha. What do you mean by that? What am I now? The Dragon Champion. Back on the bridge. Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura tensed as they got ready to face Zabuza and Haku. The missing nin from the water country got his head cutter sword ready, and Hawk, who had revealed his secret bloodline, got ready to finish Sasuke off with a barrage of sennin. Kakashi kept himself ready to fight, though his Sharingan was still being disabled by the mist. Sakura stayed close to help Kakashi and protect Hazuna while Sasuke bit back the pain and got to his feet. They were so focused on each other that it was not surprising that all of them were suddenly stunned to feel a massive explosion of chakra, and a type of energy that none of them had ever felt before. It was like an explosion of energy that blinded and overwhelmed their senses in a heartbeat. Haku halted his attack, and so did Sasuke, as they tried to look for the source of such immense chakra. Sakura tried her best to find out where the chakra was coming from. Even Zabuza and Kakashi tore their attention from one another and searched for the chakra source. What is that chakra? It's massive. Sasuke thought, as he looked as best he could despite the mirrors surrounding him. Such power, pure unadulterated power, it's like an unending wave of energy. Where could that be coming from? I've never felt anything like it before. Haku thought, as he tried to search for the source. It's certainly not Kyuubi's chakra, it's very different and more powerful. Kakashi thought, as he searched for its possible location. That power, it's unlike anything I have felt in my travels since my failed attempt to kill the Mizukage. It even surpasses Haku's chakra. Zabuza said, as he had this very uneasy feeling ever since the chakra explosion. That level of chakra is impossible. What or who could possibly make that much power? Sakura thought, as she too felt the chakra. She was unsure if it was a threat or an ally. They all got their answer, as a massive geyser of water exploded from the very same side of the bridge, where Naruto had fallen after Zabuza had attacked him. The water seemed to tingle, as if it too was alive, and, as the water fell back, they were all stunned to see a massive beast made out of pure light appear before them. It defied anything that they all had heard of, and it seemed to look down, and then it spread what appeared to be wings, and as it began to fade, someone leaped out from the light and landed on the bridge. The new figure stood up, and the orange and blue jumpsuit gave it away. Naruto. The blonde ninja looked back, and he smiled at his team. Sorry I'm late. I had to take a detour. Before Naruto could speak further, Zabuza charged at him with his head-cleaving sword, and from the position of the weapon, the missing mist swordsman planned to end the blonde ninja's life with one blow right for the neck. I don't know how you survived, brat, but I'm going to cleave you and take your head. Naruto looked at Zabuza, and then reached behind him, and replied in a cool and more confident voice. I hardly think so, Zabuza of the Mist. As Zabuza attacked, there was a loud metallic clang, and the others watched, as Naruto produced a sword that was smaller and less massive than Zabuza's head-cutter sword. It blocked the weapon effortlessly, and Naruto was holding it in a two-handed grip. The two tried to push each other back, and Naruto managed to push Zabuza away. The missing nin growled at being stopped, and got his sword ready, but when he looked at his sword, he was stunned to find that a portion of the edge was destroyed, and cracks had formed on the blade. Impossible. My sword was forged using the strongest metals that could be found, and it has been tempered well sharpened, and reinforced, becoming the deadly weapon it is today. How can it suffer that much damage from that brat's sword? Kakashi himself was stunned at the sight. He naturally knew about some of the weapon forging techniques employed by the Mist Swordsman, and to see that strange sword, it not only withstood the cutting power of Zabuza's head-cleaving sword, but caused that much damage to it, was a sight he was certainly not planning to forget anytime soon. It's unlike any sword I've seen before, and there seems to be a field of chakra almost hard to see around it. Where on earth did Naruto find that thing? The others had no time to waste, as Naruto moved in, and the swords clashed once more. However, Zabuza knew that this fight was lost, as there was no way his sword could continue to remain intact, if even a glancing blow with that sword that brat wielded could result in this much damage to it. The next blow further tore off an edge from the sword, and more cracks were on the sword. As Naruto was able to force Zabuza back, he turned his attention to Sasuke, and saw the extent of his teammates' injuries. He then turned to Zabuza, and replied, I guess I can't keep fighting with you right now then, I'll let you and Kakashi-sensei sort this mess out between you two. But that Naruto rushed into the mirrors, and was now beside Sasuke, wielding his new sword in the face of Haku, and the ice mirrors that he had summoned. Sasuke however was happy with Naruto in the area despite his wounds. He was already able to use the Sharingan, and was able to even up the odds at least. He didn't need the dope's help, though he wondered just when did he suddenly get this burst of chakra, and where did the sword come from? What are you doing here, you idiot? Naruto turned, and gave Sasuke a glare of disbelief. I came here to help you get out of this mess, and this is the thanks I get. Now we're both trapped here, Naruto. I noticed, so let's not waste time arguing, and find a way out of here. Let me help with those blasted senbon, you look like a pincushion. Naruto felt an energy surge flow from the sword known as the Holy Talon, and it glowed with a silvery green light, and he then felt an urge to touch the blade, and when he did so, the silvery green flame covered his left hand with no harmful effect. And he then placed his free left hand on Sasuke, and the Uchiha survivor watched as the green flame surrounded him, but instead of hurting him the flames were harmless, and to his astonishment, the senbon that had hit him were forced out, and his body was healed where there were cuts and piercings before. There was only whole flesh now, as the flame faded. That was impossible, that was like a medical, but unlike anything I've seen before. He healed all my wounds with the sword's green and silver flame. What kind of power was that? Naruto was also astonished at that power, but put that aside, as he faced the mirrors that were before them, not wanting to get distracted, and getting hit from behind by the ninja before him, and Sasuke. He took a defensive posture, and got ready to fight, while Sasuke managed to fight back his shock, and got into a defensive position. Zabuza however knew that after all that he has seen, there was no way either he or Haku could beat this ninja team. The Sharingan user was a bit of a problem, but Haku could even that up. But that brat that he thought he had killed now was a big factor that he was not in the mood to face at this point, and time, as much as he wanted to settle accounts with Kakashi and his team, he would have no chance to win this fight, and while it called him the demon Zabuza, he had no choice but to retreat. Haku, we're breaking off from this battle. Haku was surprised, but understood his master's words, as he too had doubts that he could win this fight easily, after sensing the immeasurable chakra that Naruto was giving out when he reappeared, his attacks that nearly destroyed Zabuza's own sword, and his new ability to heal wounds with that flame from the sword he carried. He felt that fighting the blonde was not the best of plans. He turned, and moved away from the mirrors, and faced the two ninja. It seems you both have won this round, but I have a feeling that we shall face one another again someday. Until then you both had better be ready. I will not forget either of you, especially you, Naruto-kun. Zabuza then placed back his head-cleaving sword, and the two vanished, and with that, the mist that Zabuza used faded as well, along with Haku's ice mirrors. The mission mist swordsman then spoke to the others. I guess this is one fight I will not forget. Make no mistake, Kakashi, I will come back and settle accounts with you. As for you with the sword, I don't know where you got that weapon, or what it is, but don't make the mistake of thinking that just because I am leaving doesn't mean I've forgotten my promise to take your head. And when I do, that sword of yours will be destroyed. With that, both Zabuza and Haku left the scene, and this allowed Team 7 to relax a bit, and so did Naruto, as he relaxed his grip on the sword, and placed it on his back where the sheath quickly covered the weapon. This was not unnoticed by the others, as Kakashi, Sakura, and Sasuke approached their fellow team members. Hey Dobe, where did you get that sword? Naruto reached out, and took the sword from his back, and with it in its sheath. I don't really know, I found it in the water when I fell, and when I touched it, it's kind of hard to describe. Sasuke glared a bit more, and wondered just what was going on here, and he wanted to know just where did Naruto suddenly get all that power. If he could find it, it might help him in his plans to avenge his family. He was going to have to keep an eye on his teammate from here on out. Well Naruto, you've really lived up to your reputation, as the most surprising ninja candidate to leave the academy, but that still doesn't explain all that chakra that we felt when you came back, and what that strange glowing creature was before you came out. What exactly happened down there? Kakashi asked, as he examined the young blonde. He was thankful that the boy was not killed, and thankfully the Kyuubi's chakra didn't come out or the seal didn't break, that the events that just happened before him begged for answers. And what kind of sword is that, Naruto? I've never seen anything like it before, and it doesn't match any type of sword I know of in the history books back at the academy. Sakura asked, as she too looked at the sword that Naruto had. Naruto shook his head, and also answered her question. I wish I knew what kind of sword it was myself, Sakura-chan. I found it buried in the side of a boulder when I fell down into the deeper waters. The really cool thing is, it's almost weightless. What? I'm serious. It's almost like it's totally made of paper or pen. There's nearly no weight in the whole weapon. Can I try holding it? Sure. Sakura reached out for the sword's handle, as Naruto gave it to her, but to her shock, and everyone else, the pink-haired Kunoichi yelled out loud, as the sword hit the ground with a clang, and she released it. The pink-haired Kunoichi reached for the sword, and tried once more to lift the weapon, but she couldn't even begin to lift it, as it didn't even move an inch or a millimeter off the ground. After several more attempts, Sakura gave up, and glared at Naruto with her hands on her hips. Naruto, you liar. You said this sword had no weight. This thing feels like it weighs almost like a whole building. Kakashi raised an eyebrow at that statement by Sakura, and he was too tired to lift the sword once he had a good grip, and when he tried to lift it, he too felt like he was trying to lift an entire mountainside with his hands, and after several attempts he himself couldn't lift the weapon. The silver-haired shinobi tried again, and afterwards gave up, as he released the weapon. It weighs a lot, that's for sure, but that doesn't explain how you could carry it, and we can't. Can you try lifting it? Naruto nodded, and reached out for the sword, and to the amazement of the rest of Team 7, the sword was effortlessly lifted by the blonde ninja, who showed none of the struggle that either Sakura or Kakashi had when they too tried to lift the sword. It was there that Kakashi noticed something else, and reached out to Naruto's right arm, and rolled up the sleeve, and to his shock, he found a tattoo of some great beast with wings that seemed to breathe fire. Where did you get this, Naruto? Naruto looked, and he too was surprised to see the tattoo as well, and couldn't help but stare at it. However, the team had no time to waste, as they turned, and spotted an armed wave of men, and before them appeared to the leader of the whole bunch, a man in a business suit, and had a cane. And no doubt was the one responsible for Wave Country's troubles, as Tazuna identified him very quickly. Gato. The man sneered, and spoke to them all. I see that Zabuza and his followers didn't do as I asked of them. A pity, since I wasted so much money on him. But then again, I can always make more money to reimburse myself for the losses. But until I get rid of you, Tazuna, I can't do that, so I'm going to make one last offer for you two. No deal. You've had your way over my home long enough, and I won't stand for it anymore. And what are you going to do, old man? Attack me like your foolish son-in-law did. Do you remember what I did to him after that little incident? I can do the same thing to you, and then the rest of your family as well. You're nothing but threats to me, and threats to my business are the ones I despise the most. Kakashi, however, spoke to Gato with a firm tone. You'll have to get past this first. Ha! You may be a jonin, but you are alone, and I am not. I hired all these mercenaries to deal with you, and your little team of kids on the off chance that Zabuza failed to keep his part of the bargain, and now that he did, I will be able to finally end this whole mess. Men, if you want to earn your pay, then wipe them out. Naruto glared at him, then took out the sword from the sheath, and faced Gato and his men along with the rest of his team. The mercenaries were all eager for a fight, and got all of their weapons ready, but then a loud number of footsteps were heard. And it seemed like an army was heading this way, making Gato confused, and the confusion faded, and turned into shock and rage, as he spotted Inari, and all the villagers, and they were armed with whatever tools, and makeshift weapons they could find. The evil tycoon growled and snorted as he spotted the leader of the villagers, as Inari was wearing a helmet and was armed with a crossbow. So you're Tazuna's grandson. And what is this rabble you have with your army? You're pathetic, you're nothing but poor folks with tools, while my men can beat the tar out of all of you in a heartbeat. I'd like to see them try that. You may have killed my father, but we're no longer your pawns. We want you out of our village, and out of Wave Country now. I've had enough of this. Kill them all. Right? The mercenaries charged forward, and Naruto got ready to fight, along with Sakura and Sasuke and Kakashi as well. However, Naruto decided to finally throw his ace in the hole, as he made the hand signs and used his trademark Kage Bunshin Jutsu. And like before, there were large numbers of clones that appeared ready to fight, and they too were armed with the same sword as the original Naruto was. This made the mercenaries pause as they saw this, and Kakashi decided to get into the act, as well, making his own Kage Bunshin to even up the odds a bit more. Even Sasuke got into the act as well. Ito was livid and told the mercenaries to attack, and with the incentive that not only will they be paid by him to do this, but they were free to plunder the village for all the items of worth in it. This was enough to make the mercenaries overcome their fears as they continued to charge. However, unknown to them all, the sword Naruto wielded began to glow faintly, as if it sensed the danger its master was in, and the shielded stone in the handguard opened, as the metal covering it opened, and the glowing stone once more appeared like an eye, and Naruto suddenly felt the surge. And he felt something enter his mind like a gentle suggestion. He then decided to follow through, and then placed the sword in front of his face, with the flat ends of the sword facing him, and the target, and instead of making hand signs. As per requested by, he began to speak in an alien tongue that got the attention of his team, as they had no idea the language that Naruto was uttering. What is Naruto talking about? What kind of language is that dope speaking in? This language certainly doesn't sound familiar, but it seems to be familiar to Naruto. What is it? They got their answer, as Naruto raised his sword high, and spoke in their tongue, and uttered a phrase that seemed to resonate with power and authority, and it was there that they saw the glowing stone that appeared in the handguard of the sword Naruto had. I command you to serve the cause of justice. Arise, and fight for me. Bolts of pure golden light shot out of the sword, and to the astonishment of everyone, the bolts of light took human forms, and when the lights faded, there were many warriors before the mercenaries. They were all dressed in armor, some wearing plates of overlapping armor. Others wore coats of mental rings and armor plate, and the only feature that showed that they were united was the symbol of the same silver beast that was on Naruto's right arm. The warriors wielded a mixture of weapons, like the mercenaries did, such as swords, spears, maces, hammers, polearms, bows, and crossbows. The beings turned to face Naruto, revealing glowing eyes and hidden faces in their helms, and they bowed before him like loyal servants to their master. We are the Knights of Faldron, we obey the wielder of the Holy Talon, and we will fight for you. The warriors then faced Gato and his mercenaries, and brandished their weapons, and were moving in strict military formation, and the sight of these warriors appearing stunned everyone on either side, especially the rest of Team 7. As they each tried to figure out just how did Naruto summon these men, seeing Naruto use his Kage Bunshin Jutsu was normal for them, but for someone like Naruto to suddenly summon a well-armed army of warriors out of the light that came from the sword he was wielding was something else. When did Naruto learn how to do that? I don't want to admit it, but that was cool. I've never seen Sasuke-kun do that before. Does it have something to do with that sword Naruto found? How could he have found that kind of power? There's no way someone like him, he's a goofball, an idiot, could suddenly have that kind of power. No way. Why does he have that sword? Interesting, that sword is more than it seems. It somehow allowed Naruto the ability to summon a familiar in the same way as summoning is done, like the way I would have summoned my nin dogs, though those guys are unlike anything I've ever seen before. And Naruto has no blood contract to speak of, let alone made any hand signs to summon them. Only that strange language the Hokage should be told of this, once we get back to Konoha. Ito looked on with wide eyes, and so did the mercenaries. The sight of the newly summoned warriors who were very well armed and armored stopped them all cold, seeing that there was no way they could handle fighting not just the ninjas and the villagers. But this new force that came out from the very light made them know of only one option. Mercenaries were the most practical persons in the art of war, and despite being greedy for money and riches, they knew that sometimes you had to retreat in order to find a new source of money. And be alive long enough to spend it, and now was one of those times. They all dropped their weapons, and ran back into the ship that had brought them here, leaving behind their former boss to face the army that appeared before him all alone, and Gato was angry as hell as he turned and called them nothing but cowards. But the moment he realized that he was all alone, and when he faced the army before him, he found himself being faced by Naruto, who had a grin on his face. Looks like your boys have changed their minds. I guess that leaves you alone, and no one to help you. You brat. Die. Gato took out his cane, and revealed a hidden sword, and when he stabbed for Naruto's midsection, the blonde ninja moved with amazing speed, and avoided the strike, and with one powerful slash. He brought the holy talon on Gato's cane sword. The weapon was cut cleanly in half by Naruto's own blade like it was nothing but a piece of soft clay, and Gato gulped as he stumbled and fell flat on his face. He turned and looked to see the holy talon's tip on his neck. And Naruto looking at him with contempt. The scheme over Gato Wave Country is no longer yours to control. It belongs to the people who truly deserve it, Inari and his fellow villagers. If you ever try to raise another scheme here, I'll take you out personally. That is the only warning you'll get from me. Naruto took away the holy talon and turned to move back with the others, but Gato was not going to give up, as he was not going to lose his only source of income to some brat. He grabbed a fallen spear and charged at Naruto. "Look out, Naruto!" The members of Team 7 shouted, along with Inari and the villagers. Naruto, however, had sensed Gato's incoming attack, and with amazing skill and precision for someone who never studied the art of, he slashed the spear at the rear of the blade head and rendered the weapon useless. And before Gato realized that he was going to die, Naruto was already moving, and only a brief flash of light and sound of steel cutting something was heard, as Naruto held the sword to his side with one hand, showing that he had struck out with a slash. Gato groaned, and blood flowed out of his mouth and nose as his shades fell off, and he fell to the ground dead. Inari and the villagers cheered as they saw that Gato was no longer a threat to them all, and Tazuna smiled and looked into the sky and spoke to someone that he knew. "It's over, Kaiser. Gato's gone, and he won't be coming back anytime soon. Your death has been avenged. Tsunami and Inari are safe, and so is the village. Your son's become a man, and he will be a fine man someday, and now our village can finally prosper and grow. And it's all thanks to those ninja there." Naruto looked at Gato's body and sighed and looked away, as much as he knew he had defended himself from the treacherous businessmen. It still shocked him that he had just killed a man in combat, but he knew that Gato brought it on himself, and he walked back to the others. He recalled the summoned fighters that he had called forth with the aid of the holy talon, and with his pointing the sword to them, the men returned to their light forms and were absorbed back into the sword, and the glowing eye in the handguard was once more closed in its metal sheath. As he walked back to the others, as his clones dispersed. A few days later. "You promise you'll come around here someday?" Inari asked Naruto, as he and his mom Tsunami and Tazuna, along with several other members of the village, were seeing Naruto, Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi off, as they were heading back to Konoha to give their report on the completion of the mission. "Of course I will, Inari, and when I get back, I hope you've become stronger. Who knows, you might even become a ninja like me." Sasuke and Sakura looked on with sweat drops on their heads, while Kakashi gave a sigh and smiled a bit at the idea of two Narutos running about in the village, while Tsunami and Tazuna smiled at the scene. The villagers were also busy recovering from the rule of Gato, who had been buried far away from here. Tazuna was able to finish the bridge, and, as they bid farewell to the people of Wave Country, one of the villagers turned to Tazuna. "So what name are you going to give this bridge now that it's already finished?" Tazuna smiled and replied, "I'm going to name it the Great Naruto Bridge." Tsunami couldn't help but laugh lightly at that idea and replied, "That is a very good name. I'll wager that it will be very famous like Naruto himself. That name gave us good luck here, and I have no doubts that he's going to be famous someday." As Naruto and the others were moving along the bridge, he was really in a good mood, as he knew this was his first success as a ninja in a very long time. "When I get back to Konoha, I'm going to get Iruka-sensei to buy me the largest amounts of ramen he can manage, and I can't wait to tell Konohamaru all of my adventures. He's going to love it." He then turned his attention to the sword, and took it out of the sheath that was on his back. It still amazed him on how elegant the weapon was. Sasuke kept his gaze elsewhere, but he still wanted to know more about that sword, and where others like it could be found. He was deep in thought, so he wasn't able to speak to Sakura. "Ha? What is it? You want to do something with me once we get back to Konoha?" "Sorry, but I've got some matters to tend to once I get back." "Oh, alright. Hey Sakura-chan, if you want, I could go with you," Naruto added with his usual grin, as he had the sword back on its sheath. Sakura naturally responded in her usual fashion when it involved Naruto. "You idiot. That was a private conversation between me and Sasuke, so butt out." As the team of Konoha ninja moved on, they passed the forest, and Naruto recalled something and took off. Kakashi and the others looked at Naruto and decided to follow him, as they found him in the very same clearing that he found the wounded boar, and the ruined area he reached for the creature that he managed to tend without being gored. Kakashi was about to warn him, but they witnessed something remarkable. The trees seemed to come to life and grow branches that had been cut, as if they were healing. Grass was growing greener and thicker, and Naruto once more used the silver-green flame and placed his sword on the boar's body, and the cuts began to heal. And to the amazement of the others in his team, the boar got up and began to lick Naruto's face like a puppy, instead of attacking him. It was as if the very environment came alive when that sword activated. Naruto laughed and replied, Okay, Mr. Boar, you're happy. I did say I was coming back to get you fixed up, remember?" Naruto got up and placed his sword back as the boar got turned and ran back into the woods, and as the team headed once more for home, Kakashi knew that things were going to get really interesting once they made it back there. Thanks for watching my video. Leave a like if you enjoyed my video, and also do consider subscribing to my channel for more awesome